All right, can you just confirm that you can see my screen?
We can indeed.
Awesome. All right, well, thank you all for being here with me. I'm Jordan Levy from CapSource. Thank you so much for the warm intro, James. Absolutely love the work that you guys are doing at the Global School Alliance to bring thought leaders and members of our community together who all believe in the power of learning and connection and networking. I've been working in experiential learning for my entire career ever since I graduated from Lehigh as an undergrad business student, mostly just hungry for real world connection, identifying mentors that would ultimately help me um, develop professionally. And I thought the structure of most of my classes, as I'm sure most of you have experienced both as a student and as an educator, is very content oriented. But I'm sorry, most of the learning experience in the real world after you graduate from formal education is based around mentoring and learning by doing and through projects. And so, our whole philosophy is trying to figure out how to bring that into the overall experience that students are having in the higher ed environment. So I think a great place to start here is obviously first and foremost, what is the challenge that we're looking to help higher ed institutions overcome? I'm sure many of you have heard of the skilled labor gap, the skills gap, employment gap, but basically the gist there is students don't feel prepared upon graduation. They're ultimately, as a result, underemployed. They find it difficult to pay back their loans, and also the employers don't think that students are prepared. And the bizarre thing is, there's actually tons of open roles for them. So fundamentally, you have to question why. Why are we, spending all of this time and energy getting students through curriculum that isn't having them leave field more prepared, more excited, more energized, more connected to really jumpstart their career? And I also think something else as a caveat that's kind of interesting is if we could do that as an undergrad, just like any good product, we can actually sell it again and again and again to them. So not only are you talking about a 4-year bachelor's, but master's and certificate programs and lots of other really cool things that can be added to the repertoire for schools as they think about creating new products to offer students and the next generation of talent. So we find that a great solution to this is experiential learning. We have a really long, robust article about this. This is just a synopsis of what our methodology is. But basically, if you look at this framework next to the orange word start here, basically, we're helping students use universal transferable skills. These are the NACE 8 career competencies. I'm sure you're familiar with them. But students, through doing these projects with companies, actually get a chance to work on projects that help them build skills across all 8 of these very important verticals. Obviously, one of those, Global School Alliance, we have Intercultural Fluency, right? I get to talk to companies and students from all over the world, connect them with companies and students all over the world, helping them build communication skills, critical thinking skills as they work on projects that don't have a solution. Of course, they're always working in teams. I think that's a really a crucial aspect to the professional work environment in general. So students actually learn a lot peer to peer, and then of course they get to learn leadership skills within that context and from the leaders that they work with on those projects. Of course, they get a chance to kind of see how careers pan out for alumni and other people that are connected with their community and use really cool digital competencies and tools and brush up on those skills as they're preparing to enter the workforce. So they don't just hear about project management tools and CRMs after they get started. They actually get a chance to use these tools throughout the projects. So if you think about the holistic framework, so students are using these skills to develop real insights. So companies want real outcomes for their projects that they're proposing to students for real stakeholders. So they actually care about the outcomes. It's not just a project for the sake of doing a project for a grade. This is actually something that the company is going to use. And then one important aspect is that they get to provide real feedback to the students who can iterate on that project as they move through it and really learn what it's like to deliver a great product at the end. And so the key to all of this is reference-worthy experience. So most of the time when graduating, students don't have enough on their resume to get those jobs. That's why Crazy enough, most entry-level jobs require several years of work experience because they don't want to train the students on what they should have learned in college. And so that's what this is designed to do, is really turn the classroom into a pseudo work experience, lower stakes. The students aren't getting paid, they're getting course credit. They're working with real organizations on real challenges that have relevant topics where they expect real outcomes. What's in it for the companies, right? We call it experiential hiring. It's kind of the other side of our model. And so basically the students, the companies get to engage talent. So of course, they're using this as a talent acquisition strategy. Of course, they also not only get to engage with the students and assess those students from a soft skills, technical skills, and culture fit perspective, but they actually get to integrate outcomes of their projects into their business. And they also get to integrate the talent that works on those outcomes into their business. So there's really a great benefit here, especially if we can keep the cost low or no cost for companies to get involved. And then obviously, as companies work more with us, we can start to offer added value services and products as well. So I think this is a great way to kind of see the model come together, especially from the perspective of an institution. So first of all, what is the role of an institution in the experiential bargain? So the exchange between the students and companies as they engage in experiential learning and hiring. So the red boxes indicate that kind of three-pillar important approach, right? Organization, how do we organize these engagements? Facilitation, how do you actually connect the students and make sure that their experience is going smoothly? And then accreditation, how do we recognize students for their work, help them showcase their experience on their resume, on their LinkedIn, talk about during job interviews, and what have you. So these are kind of the three main things that schools are responsible for doing if they want to be an experiential learning provider. It's extremely painful to go through all three of these pillars, especially if it's your first time around. A lot of these programs happen ad hoc. If you've heard of capstone programs, we've introduced a product called a live case, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but those are pretty much the low-hanging fruit for us as an organization, is to work with educators who want to accomplish goals in these, to basically go through this process a little bit more efficiently. So we talked a little bit about this, but the outcome of these projects is reference-worthy experience. So this is an example of a student that worked with Verizon in their AR/VR department, which was ultimately turned into Oath. The students got a chance to work on a real project with the leadership of that organization, present directly to them based on a business challenge. Their whole challenge was to come up with a pricing strategy. So it involved a little bit of product knowledge, a little bit of market research, and a little bit of finance, accounting, and sales background. And so, of course, just like the real world, no project really fits only into one bucket. But of course, we can have these projects align with any course topic, any teaching goal that you have. It works for intro level students. At a freshman level, it works for graduate students, continuing education students that are on the other side of the spectrum, because really everyone can gain more experience, use skills, collaborate, and produce meaningful outcomes for real organizations. So these are the two formats that work really well for experiential learning. There's a third format, which is the individual student experiences. We find that companies do not like to opt into those. It's a lot of work for very little exposure to one student, although obviously some internships and co-op programs are designed to be that way. We don't dabble too much in those, although our technology can help. But as far as our offering, we try to focus on helping schools build single team and multi-team experiences. So think about the single team like a capstone, and the multi-team like a live case or hackathon. So students are working closely with peers, but either the faculty is a key liaison in the multi-team experience versus more of a mentor if you're looking at the single team experience. This is an example of a live case. So this is actually the students presenting on a go-to-market strategy to the director of sales and marketing of one of the fastest growing companies in Texas. It's called CoinSource. They run Bitcoin ATMs. The students were challenged with trying to figure out how they can sell their Bitcoin ATMs to B2B, right? Instead of selling to individual stores selling to CVS, 7-Eleven, organizations that want to have a Bitcoin ATM in their location, brand it, but still want it to be powered by a real company that knows what they're doing. So that's what this is all about. Most of these students were undergrads participating in this experience. And one of the really amazing things about this is that the entire group of students on the screen was actually hired full-time by this organization because of how successful they were in this project. So not only are we helping the students learn how to use skills, but we're helping them develop enough experience to truly drive career outcomes, which is really cool because now we're changing the dialogue with how industry recruits students when they look at learners from the context of learning transitioning into work as opposed to just transitioning into work and maybe being less prepared. And I think giving companies and community partners a stake in the game when it comes to education, I think only gets them more invested into recruiting those students, helping to train them, helping to make sure that they have the tools that they need to succeed from day one on the job. So how do you manage all of this? That we found that is kind of that second pillar. So not only do we help our faculty and institutional partners find organizations to work with and scope out those projects, but we also help to facilitate using our experiential learning management technology. So of course, the key is you have to build a course environment. So it's similar to an LMS, but there's a company rule, which is very different, right? You have to provide some exposure to the company to be able to manage the project, provide updates, upload resources, provide feedback. So a lot of those tools are built directly into our platform. You can manage the instructor team. So who are the mentors on the educator side? Who are the mentors on the company side? What different projects are the students working on? So if you take a peek down here, you can kind of see it. This is a series of 4 projects, all based on the same company. So this is kind of like a hackathon, but the students got to choose, did they want to work on the marketing project or the pricing product or the supply chain project. And so these are the ways that we kind of organize around the educator and the experience they're trying to build as they look at experiential learning as part of their program. Sometimes it's embedded into a larger course and it's just like a 2-week or 4-week experience built somewhere into the curriculum. Other times it's the full semester, like a capstone or like a live case. There's lots of options when it comes to helping educators integrate companies into the learning experience for students. One of the really cool things, so we've been thinking about how do you help drive more daily interaction? So less about the project-based experiences, helping students find projects to work on, find internships, meet with their teams, deliver outcomes. But we want to also help them actually prepare for the types of conversations and experiences that they're going to have as working professionals. And so one of our clients came to us and said, hey, we have a good idea for this challenge that you have. Let's build mentoring into your experience. And so we actually have spent a lot of time thinking about how do we improve the experience that a lot of other companies that similar to us are working on as well. And so we take a very project-based approach to mentoring. So students are actually tasked with matching based on a professional development topic area like improving my resume, relocating for work, industry tools and techniques. There's a curriculum that they work through. There's a sequence of 2 meetings, and then the students are ultimately provided with an opportunity to continue with that mentor through more informal mentoring or go back into the network and get mentored again on the same or different topic. So it really helps the students think more critically about how they have professional conversations. So it's a really cool new tool that we're deploying, and it's been really exciting to showcase. I think one of the really neat things about CapSource, not only do we manage all of this as a light experience on our capsource.io website, so you can actually try it out, but you can also white label the entire experience and tailor it to your programs. So that's one of those things that I think is so crucial for institutions. They want to feel like it's their program. You want to feel like it's something that is for your students, for your industry network partners, not that you're just playing in a game that was created by a third-party vendor. And so that's why we've taken this approach. We let you try out everything in our light experience and then slowly migrate over to your own custom environment, which we can kind of maintain as a private branded experience, and really ultimately start figuring out how to help schools monetize their programs even more, get more students involved in experiential learning programs, get more companies involved and charge them to participate. Really the opportunities are endless. We're extremely grateful to be here today as a partner of the global education system. So we have partnered with over 150 global institutions, all the way from Europe and Asia and India, all the way to Latin America, the United States. Really, any school anywhere can work with any company anywhere. It's part of the reality of the world that we live in. We just need to help students understand time zones and communicating clearly when you're working with folks from different places with different backgrounds. And I think it's a really great skill that they can gain easily through these types of projects. We try to make this as easy as possible for the educators, for the students, for the companies, bringing them all together, connecting them meaningfully. Obviously, thousands of students have gone through these experiences. We're close to doubling that just this year, which has been really exciting for us as we connect more companies and their leaders with students through project-based experiences and now mentoring. If you do have any questions or you want to get in touch with us, that's my personal cell on the screen on the left-hand side. Our director of product also deals with all of our enterprise implementations. So if anyone is interested in that, you can also click the scheduler link directly on our website, or you could just capstars.io/schedule/Jordan, and you'll actually get a chance to book time directly with me. We can go through a one-on-one demo, show you some more in-depth examples of how this product and our experiences are being used by institutions to really deliver something meaningful to students, something that's different, something that helps them become who they are by just providing them with the context that they need to learn and thrive. So with that, there's definitely a couple of minutes for questions. Feel free to drop them in the chat, and then we can kind of quickly answer those. Otherwise, it's been a really great pleasure to be with you here today and to share a little bit about the work we're doing at Capstars to make experiential learning easier and scalable. And we're excited about the opportunity to work with some of you guys and helping you bring this to your institutions.
Jordan, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. Really interesting, this idea of active learning and real outcomes, real products as well, which is a dynamic idea for the students. Has anyone of any colleagues got a question for Jordan? Are there any questions? Do put them in the chat as well. Something I was going to ask Jordan, what is your target age group for students? Would this be upper high school or secondary school?
So we have worked with high schools. I think they, especially as students, settle in and start to understand the different arenas there are out there in terms of how you can think about work. It's a really cool opportunity to connect them through mentoring experiences, through project-based experiences, through hackathons. It's really, the key is to make it easy for companies to understand what we're asking them to do, including the student audience that we're working with. So high school students, we set different types of expectations than undergrads, as freshman, sophomore level versus junior, senior level versus grad students. So we work across the spectrum. Anything earlier than high school, we haven't really spent much time on. Even high school experiences, I think students really are still learning the language and their communication skills around how to interact. So it's really important to incorporate some of that into those projects as opposed to just expecting outcomes, which is what we are trying to do within the framework of college and graduate programs.
Jordan, thank you very much. There have been some great comments in the chat. Thank you, Jordan. This was very enlightening. So very appreciative comments. If there are any other questions, we have a session for questions at the end as well. But as I said, do put them in the chat. Jordan, we'll probably have to move on now to our next speaker, but I'd like to thank you for presenting to us.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Fantastic. You sound so close as well. Okay, so we're welcoming back now Boy, who was due to speak first. Are you there, Boy?
Yes, I am.
Oh, fantastic. Would you like